Hi everyone, welcome back to our ongoing series on how to create a life operating system in Notion. Today we're going to look at identity sculpting. This follows very closely to the video we did previously on mindset. Mindset and identity sculpting go hand in hand. I think of them as mindset being your outward looking framework on the world, and identity sculpting is shaping your view of yourself, but they're obviously deeply intertwined. A few videos ago, we looked at habits and routines. We talked about how the key to effective habits and routines, or routines that become habits, is to get past motivation and then past willpower, and to get to the point where you just see yourself, your identity of yourself is based on doing certain activities or practices or behaviors. That's when you have them so ingrained that they're not a chore. Working out is not a chore because you're just someone who works out. It's just a matter of nature that you do it. You don't even think about it. Or you are a person who eats healthy. You don't debate whether to get the junk food or the cookie. You just eat healthy. You don't even think about it because that's how you see yourself. That's the identity you have of yourself. That's the ultimate objective at evolving toward as you shape the life patterns and habits and behaviors that you want to have to become the person you want to become. And ultimately, what we're all doing is trying to shape ourselves into the person we want to become so that we can achieve the things we want to achieve. You may not be able to achieve those things now, but you can become the person who can achieve them. And that's what this process is all about. Part of shaping that identity for all these habits and routines is to paint a picture, an idealized picture of who you want to become. It's hard to build a certain identity of yourself if you don't know what it is you want that identity to be. So the identity sculpting practice is clearly defining who you want to become, what behaviors and practices you want to become just a natural part of who you are. So this is a practice that can be put into any system. It doesn't have to be in our PPV, Pillars, Pipelines, Vault system, though it works very naturally in the system because many of the principles are built on shaping an identity of ourselves that will be helpful to achieving the things we want to achieve in life. So it fits naturally here, but you could do it anywhere. You don't need Notion for it. You can do this on paper and pencil, just like the mindset practice. From a Notion functionality standpoint, this is as simple as it gets, just a page with text, as we'll see in just a moment. But just know at the outset, before we get into the Notion implementation of it, that the whole objective here is to very clearly define who it is you want to become, what you want your identity to be. Ultimately, it takes time to build evidence and credibility so that you inherently and fully believe it. That's the hard part. But start by painting a picture of where you want to go, what kind of person you want to be, what kind of behaviors and actions you want to be routine and natural in your life. That's what this is all about, identifying the destination. It can change at any time. It's always flexible, but having a sense of where you want to go helps you get there, certainly sooner. In many cases, avoids you from just aimlessly wandering in random directions. So with that, let's dive in. So as we saw in the previous video, this is our mindset and identity sculpting page. The top half is about mindset. That's what we talked about last time. And the second half is about identity sculpting. So a quick recap. So we have the table of contents. I showed you in the previous video how to create that. And then we have a series of bullet points organized by section headers of the wisdom and insights we want to ingrain into our life. We want to keep top of mind and close to, prevent drifting away from it. So we revisit this 2 to 3 minutes at least, potentially 5 or 6, 10 minutes each morning to stay close and keep it present in our lives. The same thing is true of the identity sculpting section, which is down here. Once we get to identity, this becomes more identity sculpting after the mindset. And just as we jump around this during each morning, we'll jump to whatever calls us or jump in arbitrarily. And over time, we'll cover the whole thing and it'll all stay close and top of mind for us. Equally available for us to spend 2 or 3 minutes on, 5 or 6 minutes on. We can jump around the mindset area or we can jump around the identity sculpting area. And really in the beginning, when you first shape it, you want to run through the identity sculpting points consistently. So you'll want to write these out and then for the first couple weeks, definitely jump through the identity sculpting stuff first and then hit a very few bullet points in mindset. Over time, you can balance it out and not be as automatically heavy on the identity sculpting part. But you're basically going to define who you want to become very specifically. Now, unlike the mindset section where you're letting the categories form over time when you see what bullet points you're aggregating, with the identity sculpting, lay out these specific categories: character traits, unquestionable standards, projection. That's under identity. Then under goals, health and fitness, personal and behavior goals, wealth goals, business goals, if you have business objectives. If you're at a stage of your life where you're trying to build that, if you're retired, then it's less relevant. But most people have this as a part of building their life. And then we'll come back to the bottom part. So under identity, lay out a number of bullet points that you want to define you. Start with a word and make it red, a vibrant color. Motivated. And then explain what it means specifically for you to be motivated. To me, it means I wake up at 6:30 a.m., at my desk by 8:30 a.m., stop time at 8 p.m., then in bed by 9 p.m. to read, lights off, meditating at 9:30, asleep by 10. This is a very specific regimen. If I can live up to this, I feel I am motivated. I am delivering on a commitment to myself that's going to enable me to accomplish a lot. I've actually tweaked this. I now recall that my wake up time was moved to 7 a.m. So as you review it, you'll realize you've made changes and you're always free to make changes. So I'll make that 7 a.m. It's always changeable, but the point is to be very deliberate and specific in your intentions. Relentless. I will stop at nothing to win and achieve my goals. I will push through anything. I'm defining the kind of person I want to be. I am sometimes this way and I'm sometimes not, but I want to become more and more this way. So I'm laying it out specifically as the identity I want to become. Fearless. I am not afraid of anything and have a high pain tolerance. I will persist and pursue through great obstacles, through great resistance and painful moments. I'm defining who I want to be again. I want to be fearless. I want to fear nothing as I pursue the objectives that are meaningful in my life. Thoughtful. I want to be smart and thoughtful, but I'm stating it as a fact. I'm not saying I want to be, even though it is in many ways an aspiration for the future, but I'm stating it as a fact in the present. I am smart and thoughtful about what I take on and how I implement. Powerful. I will act and implement with confidence. This is what I want to be more and more. So I'm defining it with a single word, so I could skim the word, and then I'm defining it with some specifics to give it meaning and definition. You can borrow these, or you can make your own, or whatever, but lay out the character traits that define who you want to become. Unquestionable standard. This is a great phrase. I think I got this from Sam Ovens. But having these unquestionable standards you won't fall below. We don't rise to the highest aspirations or dreams we have for ourselves. We fall to our unquestionable standards. With the minimum standards, we will fight super hard not to fall below them, much more than we'll fight to reach for a dream or an aspiration. So raise your minimum unquestionable standards to a higher level, and that'll raise your whole game because that's the floor you stay above. So I want one of my unquestionable standards to be that I am relentless. I will forcefully drive toward my goals, taking multiple key steps every single day. That is critical. At a very minimum, I'm going to take steps towards my goals. Strong. I want to have a strength at my minimum floor. I will be physically fit and mentally clear. These are two really important things that are force multipliers that help everything you do. If you can keep your fitness floor at a high level, we'll waver up and down, but if you keep the low point, the down points at a good, strong level, you will have the energy and the strength to do anything else you want to achieve in life. Similarly with mental strength, you want clarity. You don't want a hazy mind. There are a lot of things you can do to maintain that minimum standard. Sleep, nutrition, exercise, some balance in your life. These are things that will maintain a floor that if you never fall below these, everything else in your life will take care of itself. Curious. I will seek to learn and understand. I'm by nature curious, but I want to actively pursue knowledge and understanding and learning. That is a core tenet and a core minimum floor. If nothing else is happening in my life, I want to be pursuing learning and understanding. And true, I will never lie to myself or anybody else. I want to maintain that as an absolute minimum floor that I never fall below. Work with these, shape your own, do what you want, but define your unquestionable standards. Now, I know I'm going to get questions about what's the difference between these. There's similarity, there's overlap. Paint a picture of who you want to become. It matters less as to which goes in which category. It just matters that you have a pretty clear definition of who you want to become. Projection. What you want to project into the world. How you want the world to see you. What you want to present. Then another category. Goals. Define your specific health and fitness goals. Weight, body fat, nutrition level. However you want to measure it. There aren't that many ways that are easy to measure. So I tend to go with weight and body fat, which are relatively easy to measure. But anything you can think of is legitimate. It doesn't have to be that. It could be you just look healthy. Could be that you can go on a run for a certain number of miles, or you can walk up your stairs without pausing for a rest. It could be anything. And then define your personal behavior goals. What behaviors do you want to see here? Now, this is overlapping with habits and routines. This is less structured, less built into your system, but define the ultimate behaviors and routines you want to have in your ideal future self. I want to have a diet with minimal sugar and lots of vegetables and proteins, just as a matter of course. I want that to be how I eat and who I am. I want to face fear front on, afraid of nothing in the world, unshakable and relentless. Define yours. I mean, that may not be a thing you care about. Define the things that are, but again, you're painting this picture of an idealized future self. I want to take action, living in the now, laser focused, and I want to have good posture. Like sometimes there are little things that are just tweaking you. Throw it in there. They can be small, they can be big. This could be endless, but just narrow it down to a handful to give you a sense of this self you're building toward. You'll bring more specifics and more detail into your habits and routines database, as we talked about in the habits and routines video previously. Define your wealth goals, your business goals. If business is a big part of your life, could be career goals, doesn't have to be a business you own, whatever your profession is. Define if you have goals for family. I tend to not have goals for family. I have objectives in terms of time commitment, time together, things we do, things I want to do, but it's less of achieving a goal and more of carving out time for us to spend together. That I've defined elsewhere in the system, but you could define goals here for loved ones in your life if you wanted to, in terms of your role in supporting them in that. Then we get to visualization, future visualization. My most recent newsletter went deep into visualization, if that's of interest to you. So what you want to do here is write an essay, 2, 4, 5 paragraphs, whatever, painting the picture of your future self. One way to do this is to describe a typical day in your future life as your future idealized self. I wake up in this location. I do this with these people. I go and have this experience, or I go and check out my whatever collection or whatever. You paint a picture of your typical day as your idealized self. That's one approach. Another is to do a journal entry. Another is to just do an essay on who you are. You could write it in first person. You could write it in third person. Just write an essay on who you are, what you're doing typically, what you care about, what you're working towards once you've become your idealized self in whatever number of years in the future. And then a fun part is to do identity and legacy visualization. So there are 2 approaches here. What I used to do is collect photos that have visual representations of this idealized self. So, you're going to collect pictures of other people and objects and locations and bring them together. That's okay. That's kind of fun. That's one approach. But what I found is actually more helpful and easier and also more effective is I've created inspiration boards on Pinterest and somewhat on Instagram, but more on Pinterest. But you could do it on Instagram. If you're going to follow feeds that feed you inspirational and idealized stuff that you really aspire towards. This is a little bit easier with objects if there are certain places you want to live in the world or visit, if there are certain cars or certain lifestyle in terms of house or certain lifestyle in terms of activities like yoga or cycling or skiing. Collect an inspiration board of one way or another, either collecting images and making your own montage, following feeds that provide that kind of inspirational visualization on Instagram, or put together boards of inspirational depictions in Pinterest. And then you can click through to those. And when you need that burst of motivation, you've got it there. Again, motivation is short-lived. It's just kindling to get things started. But sometimes you need a little drive, and clicking on these prearranged visualization boards can be just what you need on certain mornings. And then have an archive down here where you can throw things that are no longer as inspirational or relevant, but don't throw them away. Just collect them down here, and then you'll have a little archive. Throw them under a toggle here, and then you'll have an archive of things that used to be meaningful to you and they might be interesting to revisit, or you might want to dig them back out if you start drifting away and you want to bring them closer into your life. The whole exercise here is to create a very vivid, tactile representation of this idealized self. Part of it is setting the direction, and part of it is starting to build the narrative, the story that you can tell yourself to give you the confidence and the belief that this is doable, that you can see how you get from here to there. You can see the path by first knowing where the destination is, and second, connecting the dots and believing that this is someone you can shape yourself into. largely through the vividness of which you've crafted this destination for yourself. So this goes hand in hand with the mindset video we did previously. If you haven't seen that, be sure to check that out. In the next video, I'm going to show you how I do my bullet planner, which is my morning startup routine that I do as soon as I sit down at my desk each morning. And in that routine is the mindset and identity sculpting practice. So I'll show you where this fits into each day. If this is of interest, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get updates on future videos. Leave thoughts or questions below, or join us at my online community for a broader conversation. That's at yearzero.io. And hit like if you found this video valuable. I also read a newsletter called Mind and Machine on increasing human capability. I give away several of my best Notion templates to anyone who subscribes to the newsletter. You can, of course, unsubscribe at any time, but I hope you'll give it a chance. I work super hard to pack it with a lot of valuable insight. The newsletter link is below in the show notes. Thanks for watching. Lots more to come.